It would appear as though the battle lines are being drawn here in Alberta as the rhetoric and opinions are flying high with the Alberta election just around the corner. But what is to become of Alberta and those who call this beautiful province home? On social media, there seems to be a little less middle ground. Now, one of those social media voices with a passion for our province is the group Alberta Proud, and Lindsay Wilson is the president of Alberta Proud, and she joins us now from Cochrane, Alberta, home of 52 flavors of McKay's ice cream. Hey, Lindsay, welcome to Bridge City News.
You know, I've only had McKay's ice cream, I think, twice in all the many years I've lived here, but it sure still does get those lineups around the block, and it's a great tourist draw. And it's a local family that's born and raised the business, and hats off to any business that can make it through all the iterations of the decades of being a small business.
Yeah, growing up in Calgary, my hometown, I used to take my motorbike, my old Yamaha, out to McKay's almost every weekend. So, Lindsay, Alberta Pike had that famous quote, "Whenever the people need a hero, we shall provide him." Now, many have given up hope in politics altogether. How are you combating a lot of the apathy and cynicism right now?
Yeah, you know what? That's so true. There is a lot of apathy. There is a lot of cynicism. I think since the pandemic, it has divided us politically, unfortunately, and we're hoping that we can come back together. So here at Alberta Proud, we're a grassroots advocacy group. We're very focused on supporting our best in the world, Alberta Energy, and then through that, we stand up for low taxes, accountable government, personal accountability, and standing up to elitist, hypocritical politicians and celebrities. So when we talk about bringing people together, while we talk about standing up for Alberta autonomy, we also talk about us being a united Canada and talking. We try and focus a lot. Politics is riddled with a lot of negativity, especially these days. But we try and focus on the good things. We highlight the good things that are happening, and how, for example. Um, when it comes to talking about Alberta energy, we can see coast to coast that the average person really understands that this is a good thing, that it's a good thing for to bring our LNG to Tidewater and to bring it to our global allies, and that we're better together as a nation when we support Alberta energy. We're supporting a Canadian energy, so that's definitely one lens that we try to find some unity. As far as politically, it's definitely a little bit more challenging, and there's certainly an east-west divide. But um, with the current antics that have been going on 8 years and counting with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, we're hoping that our friends in the east are starting to come around, and I think we're seeing that with the Pierre Poilievre movement, and we're hoping that we can all come back to this kind of middle ground of common sense and just wanting politicians to start advocating for us and stop spending our money so irresponsibly.
And if you support Alberta Energy at the same time, you get billions of dollars more in federal transfer payments. So, I mean, that's a lot of our bread and butter here, right?
That's right. And well, 60% of Albertans want a better deal. They want to redo the equalization formula. We're hoping that we can hold this next government to account, because that kind of went quiet, coincided with, the pandemic, of course, and we're hoping to bring that to a forefront again, because we do think Albertans need a better deal, and that's the Albertans people have spoken, and that's what they want, and we agree with that.
Lindsay, political policy items can move slowly at the best of times. Now, last time you were on Bridge City News, we asked you about the federal firearms legislation. Can you talk a bit about the power that people have to change policy and place more pressure on the government?
Yeah, certainly. We did a lot of rally cries about that. We had an online petition going. I think this was something that crossed. This wasn't really even a partisan issue, and we've had some success with that. But there's certainly more to come on that front. Basically, you know, when it comes what the liberals had proposed would do absolutely nothing to prevent gun crimes and violent gun crimes on the street. Really, what they were going after was going to punish law-abiding hunters and gun owners. And I think our organization did a really good job, coast to coast, on shedding a lot of light on that. And of course, all the firearms agencies and groups across the country were big voices for that. So I think people really came together on that issue, and that was brought forward. And so I think we've seen some positive steps in that direction. But anything can happen, right? They say one thing and do another. So more to come.
Lindsay, what do you say to your followers to really encourage them to keep interacting with their political leaders, whether it's municipal, provincial, or federal? Why is it so important to be engaged in your local community and getting to know the issues that are impacting your community?
Well, it's funny because what draws sometimes the most attention for the most apathetic of voters is the antics of, say, Prime Minister Trudeau. But it's funny that people tend to care about policies and politics in the opposite order of how it affects them. The best way to get engaged and to really understand the day-to-day workings of how policies are impacting you is to really go municipal first, then provincial, then federal. And those of us who are hyper engaged, of course, we're looking at all of it, and then we're hyper focusing on different issues. But I really believe that it starts, they say charity starts at home, so political engagement really starts at home. And when I say that, I mean it really starts by getting involved in your local community, whether it's through advocacy groups, volunteer groups, heck, even your kids' sports associations. I mean, all of these local groups are run by volunteers, and I think that's what a lot of people who are burnt out, overworked, you know, um, overstimulated, overindulged. I think we're all fighting to keep up, and I understand that. Certainly, I'm one of those people as well. But get involved at the local level, and get in touch with your local councillors, your mayor. Find out what's happening in your city, and then find out how the provincial level is impacting that, and then go to the federal level. So I wish people would kind of start doing it from the opposite end, and I think people don't really realize that the municipal uh, bylaws and laws that impact you on a day to day, from where you park your trailer year round to how your streets are swept and that sort of thing.
Let's talk about more of that apathetic rhetoric or sentiment once again. Many people I talk to say, you know what, why even bother voting? It's not going to make much of a difference. Many people say they've lost trust in our politicians altogether, Lindsay. Can you talk about why this next provincial election is so vital for people to get out and vote?
I know we always say that every election is about change, but I cannot stress enough to the viewers of this that this is an incredibly critical election. I've been saying this for a couple of months now. Alberta is back, baby, and you know what? I want us to stay that way. Uh, we believe in holding all our governments to account, but the proof is in the pudding. And as far as we can see, the UCP is head and shoulders above where we believe that an NDP, Rachel Notley led government would be at this time. We do believe that overall Premier Danielle Smith is doing a really good job at putting Alberta at the forefront and making us the economic engine of this country. And we believe this is a really critical election. Corporate tax rates have been lowered. There's affordability has been payments have been issued to neutralize the just inflation. That's what we call it, not just inflation, but just inflation impacts that have been shaking our nation, and cost of food and fuel at the pump and everything like that. So we believe that this UCP government is showing that they're transforming healthcare and making real changes. Like, there's some pretty significant changes that have happened. Um, Healthcare, I think the pandemic really exposed how broken of a system it is, and layers of bureaucracy within AHS. And Premier Smith has gone in and she swept the board, replaced it with the one administrator, and they've made, red alerts on ambulances are down 60%. Wait times are down 10%. Surgery backlog is going down all the time. MRIs and CT scans are becoming more readily available. These are huge accomplishments in what was an incredibly inefficient healthcare system. And I think she's also showing that the UCP does care about more boots on the ground and about our frontline workers, and that they're listening to them and not just the big wig union big bosses. And we just really think that this government needs 4 more years, and we will be there to hold them to account. And certainly a lot of other groups like ours will be as well. But we think that this is the government that's going to be, record paying down our debt and investing in Albertans at the same time in healthcare and education and critical infrastructure projects. So you got to get out. There's advanced voting. There's so many opportunities. And so I'm asking everybody, you got to get out and vote, and you got to take 2 people with you.
You talked about healthcare. I've been without a doctor for almost 3 years since my doctor left for the Netherlands, and we need more doctors. That's what's critical in a lot of communities, not just here in Lethbridge. So, Lindsay, let me ask you something. What will you and Alberta Proud be doing outside of encouraging people to get out and vote as we head up to the May 29th provincial election?
Absolutely. Well, we are hitting the road starting next week. Have launched the Can't Stop Alberta, but you can't sit on the couch tour. So we have dates, April 3rd and 4th, we're in Calgary. April 12th and 13th, we're in Edmonton. Edmonton. April 20th, we're in Red Deer, and then we had to reschedule our Lethbridge event. So I'm just waiting on the final confirmation, but we're hoping that it's going to be April 24th. So I will make sure to send your team the details on that. We're hoping you guys would come out to it. We're going to have your mayor out and speaking about it, and our theme on that will be municipal issues and how that's impacted by provincial decisions. So we're really hitting the pavement through this tour, through the Can't Stop Alberta tour, and we're wanting to connect with everyday Albertans and talk to them about standing up for Alberta, jobs, economy, affordability, energy, education, and crime and public safety, which is certainly a humongous issue at this time and is really growing. I mean, unfortunately, with the loss of two Edmonton police officers, like it's drawing a light on this, that we need to take our cities back. We need to get a hold of this opioid control crisis, which I believe Premier Smith's team is doing really great work through their Recovery First model. But I think unfortunately it takes tragedies like the loss of our men and women working the front lines to make Albertans realize, okay, like enough is enough. We need to take our cities back. And so we want to get people out at these rallies, meet us, talk to us, get some merch, ask questions. We're going to have a whole series of awesome panelists, people who work in advocacy like me, local celebrity figures and political figures. It's going to be pretty awesome. So I'm hoping we can get everybody out to join us.
You touched on some of the issues here. What about reconciliation as well with our Indigenous communities? How vital is that moving forward?
I think it's absolutely critical. And it was interesting. Dale Swampy from the National Coalition of Chiefs, he penned a really great op-ed last week talking about how just transition, and for the viewers, just transition, now called the Sustainable Jobs Plan, but that's Premier Trudeau's plans to essentially what it is. It's worse than his late father's national energy program of 40 years ago. Essentially, what this will do is it will decimate our energy industry. It's talking about transitioning our oil and gas workers out from the energy industry into green jobs, whatever that means. So I think we're getting a little tired of this rhetoric, condemning our best in the world Alberta energy, which we are leading in carbon capture, utilization, and storage, in working right within our own industry right here to achieve low emissions. So yeah.
You know what, actually, Lindsay, we only have a couple of minutes left here, but I wanted to ask you, as president of Alberta Proud, do you feel that Albertans' voices are being heard in other parts of Canada, more specifically Ottawa?
That's really interesting. So we have a lot of advocates like Canadian Taxpayers Federation, who I think do a really good job at bringing those voices to Ottawa. But no, there is an East-West divide, and I think that's why we've seen such a tremendous following of the Pierre Poilievre movement, the official opposition leader of the Federal Conservative Party. I was just out at the CSFN conference in Ottawa last week, and the rally cries when he talks. He's an Alberta boy for sure, but he's standing up for common sense. He's standing up for conservative values, and he's standing up for our energy industry. And I think the alliance that would exist between him and Premier Smith is just vital for this country, to make us proud of our best in the world energy, and to make us proud of being Canadian, and bring us to the forefront at supplying our global allies with conflict-free LNG. I think that is so key. So I think we're not seeing it, certainly at the political level. Certainly we're not seeing it from the Liberals. We're not seeing an understanding or a support for Alberta that's been going on for decades. But while we're not seeing it at that, I think at the grassroots level, I think when you go out in the streets and you talk to people in Ottawa, and you talk to people in Montreal, and you talk to people across the country, I think there is that support, but there is a level of apathy. And so just don't get tired, folks. Get out there. Like I said, start getting involved at your municipal level and see where that goes from there. And you got to show up. You got to vote at elections. You got to vote.
Get engaged, absolutely. Lindsay, you're all about awareness, advocacy, and obviously community empowerment. How can Albertans learn more about your group, Alberta Proud?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have probably one of the biggest social media followings of its kind, and we inject a lot of humor into what we do. So it's not all just news and rally cries that we're going to inundate you with. You can visit us on our socials. Our website is albertaproud.org, and then we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter, we're on all the channels as well. You can reach out to me, lindsay.wilson@strongandproud.ca, and you can connect with me personally or send me a DM in any of the social media channels and get on our email list. We share a lot of stuff from the national stage to provincial, highlighting things that are also happening in cities like Edmonton and Calgary. And we try and stay abreast of pretty much all the major issues that are going on that affect you. And we have lots of great ways for you to get involved. And as always, we are reliant on small dollar donations. We have no government funding, so if you can help out or buy a T-shirt, that goes a really long way.
Lindsay Wilson, president of Alberta Proud, thanks so much for joining us today from Cochrane, Alberta.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.